Welcome to the Thriving Christian Artist, the podcast where we hope you connect with God to bust through the roadblocks that have held you back for years, create the work you love, and really live the life you know God created you to live as an artist in His kingdom. I'm Matt Tommy, your host. Let's get started. Well, hey there, my friend. Welcome to another episode of the Thriving Christian Artist podcast. You know, it's summer here, and so we're actually celebrating by doing a best of series this July, and we're bringing back an episode today that's featuring my friend Jan Tetsutani. Now, listen, if you did not get a chance to listen to this episode the first time it came out, I think it's been a couple of years ago. It is an incredible interview of an incredible story of transformation that Jan's had in her life. Not only that, here's the update. Since then, Jan's business has exploded. God's been using her in incredible ways. And the cool thing is, she was actually our Created to Thrive Spokesperson of the Year inside the mentoring program last year. Won $5,000. Is getting another podcast interview with me coming up later in the year, and is just doing some incredible things. So enjoy this vintage episode with my friend Jan Tetsutani. You're going to love it. Well, hey, everybody, it's Matt Tommy, and I'm so glad that you're with me on the podcast today. I've got one of my newer friends on the podcast today, which is Jan Tetsutani, all the way from Hawaii. Hello, Jan. How are you?
Aloha, Matt, and everyone. Glad to be here.
Awesome. We have gotten to know each other, over the last year, I guess, right? In the Created to Thrive mentoring program. And then you came out here to Asheville for the mastermind weekend and brought us these beautiful, oh my gosh, I wish everybody on the podcast could smell them, those leis that you brought. They were so beautiful.
I'm glad you like them.
Yeah, they were so awesome. So we're like, we want to keep them forever, but well, hey, tell everybody what you're doing out there, because, you know, your work, I'm just loving. I love to see when people really get it. And, you know, you are so talented. You're so full of the Lord and His life and all of that. And God is just bowling you over with favor right now. And so well, He is. And it's a good thing.
Thank you.
It's a good thing. So tell everybody just briefly what you do, and then we'll get into some of your background and that sort of thing. But what are you up to out there creatively in Hawaii?
Okay, well, some exciting things that God has opened up for me. So I'm a painting artist. I use acrylics, resin, mica pigments, and I also teach workshops at Four Seasons in Oahu, Hawaii.
Awesome.
So what God's been doing is I have an upcoming mural that was commissioned to do at a new Hawaiian resort in Kauai. It's called Timbers Resorts. So
Wow.
I have that coming up. And then also I'm going to be doing a show and newly exhibition in Nagoya, Japan next month.
Yeehaw.
Yeehaw is right. Thank you, Jesus.
I know it. It is. That's what I was, as we're getting to know each other, and I'm just watching your story and see you on Facebook and all of that. It's just so cool to see the Lord opening up all these opportunities. Do you feel like this is like a convergence, or they're sort of out of the blue, or, I mean, are these just totally taking you by storm? How are you dealing with all this right now?
I think it's convergence. I think it's how you share with us. It's following your assignment that God has for you.
Yeah.
And I think that just as I keep following Him step by step, He, how you say to make room for things. And I feel like He's expanded my vision, because I think before I would have freaked out if these blessings came to me. I would have freaked out and be like, no, I can't do it. And I still kind of freak out now. I still freak out now too, but
it's okay to freak out a little bit.
Yes. But I feel like He's changed my thinking, which has helped me to be a better steward and to receive what He has for me.
Wow. That's so good. Take us, back a little bit, because everybody, sees you now, sees me now. It's oftentimes when the Lord starts to elevate what you're doing, people are like, oh my gosh, look at them. They're living the life. And you're like, honey, you don't even know what what it's taken to get me here, what I've gone through. So talk about, just getting to this place. Were you a creative kid? Did you grow up in a creative family? And how you kind of got to where you are now as an artist?
Oh, okay, yes. So no, I did not grow up in a creative family. My dad was a teacher, my mom was a secretary, and
Wow.
they were kind of like wallflowers and they're very shy people.
Yeah.
And so and it's that I think the whole Asian culture when I said I want to be an artist, they're like, "Oh, well, you're going to be starving if you do. So maybe you should try to do something else that you'll make money."
Yeah.
So for a long time I believed that so-called lie. I mean, bless them because I know they meant well.
Yeah, sure.
And so what happened was it wasn't probably till about 2011 that the Lord was stirring in my heart saying, "Hey, what are you doing with that creative gift?" Because I was doing
Mm,
something totally different, coordinating events, working at a church, doing ministry. And so I said, I don't know. I'm doing a little bit of graphic design things, but I felt like he was stirring me to do more. And then right after that, I hear John Maxwell saying, we will be accountable for the gifts that we've been given, not the gifts we haven't been given. And I'm like,
yeah,
oh no, I'm doing everything that God hasn't designed me for. I mean, I know it's not wasted, but I was like, I'm not
sure.
operating how he created me to be.
Yeah.
So I had no clue about that. But he's so good that shortly after that, this guy Les Ganoza came and he spoke at one of our meetings, and he said this one line: "A dream comes in the form of a seed, and you have to nurture it." And so this dream I had that I felt was dead, I felt like God was trying to resurrect, and he said, "Nurture that." And I said, I
Yeah.
don't even know
Yeah.
where to begin with that, but God is so good because shortly after that, this gentleman who's a professional artist, his name is Delro Roscoe, he paints these beautiful realistic paintings for companies like Williams Sonoma, Celestial T, Sierra Nevada.
Yeah.
He paints more abstractly now, but back then he wanted to pay it forward with this gift that God has given him. So he offered these classes at church to do oil painting,
Wow.
acrylic painting, and watercolors. So I took that, and the passion for art just came back. And I was like, wow, this is so fun. And so one day after class, he had told me, you have a gift, and if you ever wanted to pursue it, my wife Sue and I will help you, and we believe in you so much. Here's a scanner. Start scanning your work. I was like,
Wow.
what? I don't think
Wow.
anybody would buy my work. But it was that one person's belief that I had a gift that was able to resurrect that dream that I felt was lost. And so it was shortly after that. There were some problems, of course, with my dad's health, kind of put my art on hold. In and out of the hospital. So probably about 6 months that had happened right after that. And then he had to go into hospice care. So I felt like the Lord said, go part-time, take care of your dad, have him move in with you. And so it was really stressful at that time. And 10 days after he moved in, he had passed away. He went to be with the Lord.
Wow.
So I was like, me and my husband were like, well, what are we supposed to do now? We changed to part-time status, but we felt like the Lord said, allow yourself time to grieve and heal and just paint for the love of it. Don't go back to full-time, stay part-time.
Sure.
Just focus on your work part-time. So that's what I did. And then probably in about 2013 was when I felt like the Lord said, bring your art to the world. And that terrified me. And I procrastinated. So I think in October, I said, okay, I'll get a business license. So I did that. And then I procrastinated some more until the ending of December 31st, New Year's Eve. And I said, okay, I'll open an Etsy shop. So on December
Wow.
31st, I opened my Etsy shop and I said, okay, Lord, I'm going to follow you and release my artwork.
How incredible. I love that the guy that he and his wife that came into your life at the exact right time. I mean, it's just such confirmation that when you're walking with the Lord, hearing his voice, not trying to do it all right and correct and, but just stepping out in faith and risking it, that he brings the right people at the right time to speak into your journey. And I just think that's so encouraging for people because, it's like a lot of times people feel like totally alone on their creative journey, and to realize that God's got specific people with specific things to speak into your life, and for you to be that person for somebody else too. I mean,
Yes, yes.
that's just,
And you've been that to so many of us as well.
oh, well, thank you. It's my pleasure. I'm kind of a bottom line guy. I've got kind of both ends. I'm like creative on this side, make my living as an artist. And then I'm like this, kind of dad to artists on the other side. And I want to see them get it. I want to see them walking in the fullness of who God's got them to be. And When you say, oh, these hotels and this is happening, and I see people their mind starts to change, it's like there's nothing better than to see that. And so I'm so excited for you and all that you're doing.
Thank you, and thank you for all that you're doing.
Well, thank you. Talk a little bit about, as you started coming back to your creativity and having that awakened, obviously that was in the context of hearing the Lord's voice and that sort of thing. Some people, when they talk about the spiritual part of their work and their process, it's kind of an undercurrent that flows through everything, but it's not really overt. And then for other people, it's this really visceral sort of narrative, like God's leading me through the whole thing. So where is that for you? Because I know people would love to know how you process your spiritual life through your art.
So I journal and spend time with the Lord in the morning. And from your mentoring group, I try to dream with God before I wake up. I felt like back in 2016 that the Lord had told me that he wanted to use my art as a tool to connect with people. So I felt like he gave me this permission, and you totally reaffirmed it from your mentoring group about that. It didn't have to be overtly Christian, but it would attract the people that were attracted to that type of work.
Sure.
And, just like music, right? We all play the key of A, and that's like the gospel. But we may play it jazz or country or rock or something, and it draws different people, and we express it different ways. And so I felt like the Lord was saying to me that when you create, just feel free to create. It doesn't have to be overtly Christian, but it's going to attract people, and he has used it in that way where I never thought it would, reach people or touch people in that way.
Yeah. And you're kind of, you have a lot of different expression in your work. I mean, you do some, realistic work, you do a lot of abstract. Do you go through seasons where you're switching it up, or is it all over the place all the time, or how does that work for you?
I think in my mind it's all over the place. But thank you, Matt Tommy, for helping me to focus, and ask. You were the one that told me, ask the Lord, what am I supposed to focus on in this season?
Yeah.
And so in this last season, I felt like he was saying, limit your supply. So I was doing, watercolor and acrylics and just dabbling on all different things. But I felt like he said, just focus on the acrylic painting and the resin work. And
Wow.
with my workshops, because I teach acrylic painting, do that as well, so that people that do take your class can see, what type of work you do with acrylic paint. So it was to focus on those two things that really helped.
That's wonderful. You're mentioning selling your work, teaching. I know for some people it's, sometimes it's equal, sometimes one more than the other. How does that look as you're structuring your art business? Are you primarily focused on creating and selling, and teaching is, a part of that, or is it equal, or how does that look for you?
So I used to teach twice a week, but I felt like the Lord said to taper back. So now I do only once a week workshops at Four Seasons Resort. And the other aspect is selling as well. So I feel like right now it's kind of hand in hand.
Yeah.
Although, there's seasons where there's more of a grace, and the other times there's more of a grace with selling or more with workshops.
That's such a great strategic partnership for you. And I think as people are wherever you are, I'm in the mountains, you're in a coastal community, there are wonderful relationships like that you can partner with, that they need you just like you need them. And the Lord uses that as a wonderful relationship. How did that start for you? Is that, how did that opportunity come to you, and how have you developed it over the years?
Okay, so back in 2016, I was having an art show at here called Made in Hawaii Festival. It's probably one of the biggest ones here, and I went to the restroom. So my husband was watching my booth for me, and the general manager of Four Seasons Resort came with his two daughters there. And when I came back to the restroom, he's like, hello. Oh, I love your artwork. And we just opened a resort, and I want your art there, and I want you to teach classes. It's going to be wonderful. And so he was dressed in plain clothes. So at first I'm like,
Is he for real? Right.
Is this really happening? And so he gave me his business card, and I looked at it and said, oh, okay. So we met, and so I was their first artist at the resort that they had there. And I was just so humbled at the opportunity. And I felt like the Lord said, go for it. I'm opening this door for you. So I told him, I've never done a class before, just to let you know. And he said, don't worry, we'll work it out. And so since then, they host art shows or art walks once a month. And they're very supportive local artists. So I paint, and that was the other thing. He said, and I want you to paint live in the lobby. And I'm naturally a shy person. So in my head, I'm going, I don't want to paint live. But I felt like the Lord saying, go for it. You can do it. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, I'll do it. And so I paint live in the lobby before I do my workshop. And then I also exhibit my work there. And just fostering that relationship, I think, has just been to be professional. Number one, when they need an answer, I get back to them right away. When they're looking for something for the upcoming show, or, a specific art file or something, I'll send that to them.
Yeah.
And I always just try to think, how can I be a blessing to them? I want to be a blessing to their resort. So a lot of times too, it's not my responsibility to say hi. I mean, I'm not an employee of there. They contract out to me, but I'm there to bring an experience, I feel, for their guests. So I'm there saying aloha to the guests that come into the lobby. If they need help or questions, I want to help them. And I think just anything like that I can be a blessing to them, just adds value to what I do. And the other thing too that was really a humbling experience was they won 2 awards for having these workshops at the resort. And so it's been a huge blessing in that sense that my workshops have been bringing guests, and that's what and I guess it's also good to know what their branding is or what their values are. And their thing is they want to create experiences for their guests. So I'm always thinking, how can I create a wonderful experience for guests where they feel encouraged, where they're building memories, where they are taking back an experience that they'll remember for the rest of their life with their family or with their loved ones.
I'm just thinking the whole time you're talking, this is like a master class on strategic partnerships. I mean, because you are articulating, see, you're just being you. You're just being natural, just who God's made you to be. And I'm just like, you could not describe exactly what to do any better than what you're saying. I mean, it's just it's so beautiful. And I think it's, some would just say, well, that guy just, happened to come to your table one day. No, the steps of the righteous are ordered by the Lord. The Lord knew you were going to be there that day. Amen. He knew that guy was going to cross your path. And it's like, man, how incredible is that? I just love it. I'm sure people are listening to this and going, gosh, I don't know if my life could ever be like this. This seems so incredible. I know that, life has not always been rosy for you. Even this process is not. So what's one or two of those roadblocks that, you've really had to work through in your own life to help you continue to succeed and thrive?
Well, definitely. I have a whole bunch of subscriptions of issues and different things. And I'm so not, I mean, I laugh I'm like, God, you're so funny, because I'm the kind of person that will wear slippers and jeans and shorts and so I totally felt like it was just beyond anything that I would do. And I face a lot of issues like fear, being disorganized, being overwhelmed, my identity. I have so many things, but by the grace of God and through this wonderful community of artists and Creative to Thrive, this mentoring group with Matt Tommy has been a huge help in my journey, because you can't do it alone. And there are those times where before I did feel alone and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how I would do things, and just a lot of insecurities that just paralyzed me.
Yeah. It's so, I think that's been the most interesting thing for me, seeing this mentoring group grow is the power of community. because
Yes.
no matter what you're going through, somebody else has been through it worse and longer and has come out through of it on the other side. And there's always a place to reach up to, and there's always a place to reach back to. And
Yes,
that's
definitely.
so beautiful. What are are there any habits that you're starting to employ in your life that are really bearing fruit in your personal life, in your art business, that just kind of newer habits that you're employing?
Newer habits. I would say, well, definitely. Oh, okay, well, newer habit would be, I think, expanding my vision, I
Hmm.
think. And I think it's through journaling
Okay.
that I notice these patterns that God is doing. Um, Sorry, let me think how I'm going to explain this. So I felt like the Lord said to be better at reflecting. So
Hmm.
what I do is I may jot every single day something that God was doing or showing me or teaching me. And I found that when I reflect, I see patterns of something that God is repeating in my life and showing me in my life. And it just has been giving me so much more clarity in what He's trying to lead me to do. So something recent was this theme of just keep it simple.
Yeah.
Just keep it simple keeps coming up. And a gentleman yesterday, he was talking about he's building these desks, and he said, and I felt like the Lord was just saying keep it simple. So that came up again. So I wrote it in my journal. And getting ready for this trip to Japan with customs and shipping, it can be a little bit overwhelming. And I felt like I don't think I would recognize that had I not journaled that last week the Lord said, just keep it simple.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just these repetitions of what He's been saying to me have been like little gems so that I wouldn't be overwhelmed, because I'm thinking like, oh, I have to meet their expectations or
Right.
whatever. But He's saying, no, just keep it simple, and I'm gonna work it out.
That's so good. Just being led by His voice, and I mean that's just so good. I just feel right now, and I don't do this on most podcasts, but I just feel like the Lord wants you to pray a blessing, if you're cool with that, over the people
Yes.
that are listening, because there's something about I just know in my own life, when God starts to do something, release something powerful in me, there's authority to release that. And I
Yes.
just feel like the Lord's got that on you right now, to release favor and to release this grace to live by His voice, because you are really seeing, you're in an incredible season right now. And I just believe it's from glory to glory to glory. And I just believe the Lord's going to release some real freedom in people. So why don't you just take a second and pray for people right now?
I would be so honored.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lord.
Mm.
Father, I thank you for these incredible artists that are listening to this podcast right now. I know that you have a calling and assignment that you've given to them, Lord. I know that you have placed things in their hand right now, that when they surrender it to you, God, that you will multiply it, just like the boy who offered his lunch to you and fed 5,000,
Yeah.
and the women and the children as well, Father God. I pray that you would increase their giftings. I pray that you would increase their influence and their territory, God. I pray that you would expand their vision, their thinking, Lord, to receive the blessings that you have for them. I pray that you would also just help them to persevere, to keep pushing through, and to not give up, because the plans that you have for them are to prosper them, not to harm them, to
Mm.
give them a hope and a future.
Yes,
I
Lord.
pray, God, that you would bring strategic partnerships across their path,
Yes,
Father,
Lord.
that they would be looking for it, just like when they're looking for a car, God, that they start noticing these divine appointments and connections that you're bringing their way. It could
Mm.
be in a totally random place, but you're bringing it there to them. So give them those eyes to see, Lord.
Yeah.
Give them those ears to hear what you are saying to them, Lord. And I just feel, God, that you want to bless them. You want them to just be not stressed out or overwhelmed, but to enjoy this journey that you have them on wherever they're at. And
Yeah.
every journey is a blessing, and to embrace it, enjoy it, have fun. Don't be so serious. And I pray, God, that you would just prosper them financially,
Yes, Lord.
spiritually, physically, Lord, because I believe that you are raising an army of artists
Yes, God.
who are bringing the glory of your presence across the earth.
Yes.
And I pray, God, for more fathering hearts, more mothering hearts as well, Father God, that will build upon generation to every generation, Lord, this army of artists. And we thank you and we praise you, God, for what you have done, what you are doing now, and what you will do. We give you thanks. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Woo, I'm getting blessed myself. Jan, this has been so awesome. And I cannot wait to hear the testimonies of people that said, oh my gosh, I listened to this podcast, this lady in Hawaii, and all of a sudden, boom, stuff began to break in my life. Stuff began to open up.
Yes.
And so, amen.
Yes.
Well, hey, thank you so much. Where I know people are going to want to find you on Facebook and Instagram and all that, the web. So tell everybody your website, where to connect with you, all that sort of thing.
Okay. So my website is www.jantetsutaniart, and I'll spell that JANTETSUTANI art.com. And my handle is the same thing on Instagram and Facebook.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Jan, it's been such a pleasure to have you on, and I just pray God's continued blessings and favor on everything that you're doing.
Likewise, same with you as well, Matt. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hey, thanks so much for spending a few minutes with me today on the podcast. Listen, I hope it's been a huge encouragement to you on your journey as an artist. Hey, also, before you leave, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of the other episodes of the Thriving Christian Artist podcast. And also, be sure to connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, or at my website, which is matttommymentoring.com. Until next time, remember, you were created to thrive. Bye-bye.